Evan Reed stood at the edge of the silver landing platform, his boots touching the smooth metal that reflected the sky like polished glass. The air of Valaris felt light, almost too clean for a human who spent most of his life on dusty Earth bases. He took a long breath and let it settle inside him. It smelled faintly sweet, like fresh leaves after rain. He had read many reports about Valaris, a peaceful world filled with strange beauty, but it still felt unreal to be here. For a young human explorer like him, this mission was a dream he never expected to receive. Beside him, his teammate Noah checked their equipment again, even though everything had already been checked twice. Noah was older and more serious, but Evan could feel his friend's excitement hidden under the calm exterior. They had arrived for a diplomatic event, something important for both humans and Valerians. Only a few humans had ever stood inside the royal hall of Valaris, and today, Evan would be one of them. As they walked toward the massive entrance, Evan's steps slowed. The palace looked more like a living sculpture than a building. Its walls curved upward in tall arcs, glowing with soft blue light that flowed like water. Vines with shining petals wrapped around the pillars, and tiny floating lights moved in the air like quiet fireflies. Everything felt alive. Noah nudged him gently and whispered that they should not get distracted. Evan nodded, but his eyes continued drifting across the palace's impossible architecture. He felt small inside such beauty. He felt like a child walking into a world beyond imagination. The guards at the entrance were tall, calm creatures with gentle blue eyes. They looked strong but peaceful. When they greeted Evan and Noah, their voices sounded like music, smooth and balanced. They guided the humans inside. Evan swallowed nervously. He had trained for many missions, but this one felt different. He was not here to fight or explore ruins. He was here to represent humanity. Inside the hall, the ceiling rose high like the sky itself. Hundreds of Valerians stood in graceful rows, their robes flowing like silk in a soft breeze. The floor was smooth stone that reflected every light. At the center stood a wide platform where the royal ceremony would begin. Evan tried to look confident, but he felt overwhelmed. Every sound echoed like a bell. Every color glowed with its own quiet light. Then he saw her. At first, he thought she was just another member of the royal family. But something about her presence drew his eyes and held them. She stood tall, her posture calm but strong. Her silver armor seemed to glow from inside, and blue patterns shimmered across its surface like gentle waves. Her hair flowed behind her like a stream of starlight. Even from a distance, Evan could see her eyes, bright, steady, and filled with depth he could not explain. He leaned toward Noah without thinking. His voice came out soft, almost a whisper. "She's the most magnificent princess I've seen," he said. He thought the noise of the hall would swallow his words. He thought she was too far to ever hear him. He thought he would simply admire her from a safe distance, unnoticed like a silent observer in a grand world. But she turned, slowly, gracefully, as if responding to a call only she could feel. Her head shifted, her eyes moved, and she faced him directly. Her gaze landed on him like a beam of pure light, not harsh, not intimidating, but focused, completely focused. Evan froze. His heart felt like it stopped beating for a moment. He could not move. He could not look away. He did not understand how she heard him or why she chose to react, but she looked at him as if she understood every word that slipped from his lips. Noah whispered to him urgently, warning him to keep his eyes down, but Evan could not. The princess stepped forward. Her calm, glowing presence separated her from the rest of the hall. The crowd parted gently as she walked toward the humans. Her movements were smooth, quiet, almost floating. Evan felt the air shift with each step she took. When she finally stood before him, Evan felt like the entire hall had gone silent. He felt thousands of eyes staring at him, waiting for what would happen next. He swallowed hard, trying to stand straight, trying to show respect. Princess Elira looked at him for a long moment. Her eyes had a soothing glow, as if they carried both wisdom and curiosity. Then she spoke, her voice soft but clear. "Human," she said. "Your words were honest." Evan's heart stumbled again. He did not know whether he had offended her or honored her. He tried to answer, but his voice caught inside his throat. His mind raced. What was the correct thing to say? How did one speak to a Valerian princess after accidentally confessing admiration? Before he could form a reply, she continued. "It is rare to hear such openness," she said. "Most who see royalty speak carefully. You spoke with truth." Evan finally found his voice, though it trembled slightly. He apologized, saying he did not mean to be disrespectful. She listened to him quietly. When he finished, she smiled. It was a gentle, small smile, but it felt powerful, like the first light of morning after a long night. "There is no disrespect in admiration," she said. Evan blinked. Noah stared at him with wide eyes, clearly shocked by how the situation had turned. The Valerian council members watched with unreadable expressions. Evan could hardly believe what was happening. He was nobody special. He was young, inexperienced, and easily overwhelmed. Why was she speaking to him as if he mattered? Princess Elira extended a hand slightly, a symbolic gesture of welcome. She asked Evan if he would walk with her. Evan almost looked behind him to check if she meant someone else, but she was clearly addressing him. Noah nodded quickly, encouraging him to go. Evan stepped forward. They walked across the hall while the ceremony continued behind them. Elira led him to a quieter side corridor filled with soft blue light and floating petals. The moment they were out of the main hall, Evan finally exhaled. She walked slowly so he could keep up, her presence calm and steady beside him. She asked him simple questions: where he was from, what humans liked, what he enjoyed about exploring new worlds. Evan answered honestly. He expected her to lose interest, but she listened closely. She seemed genuinely curious. Elira told him that most humans she met during past events spoke very formally. They were polite, but distant. She found it refreshing that Evan spoke without trying to impress anyone. She said Valerians valued honesty, even when it was simple. As they walked deeper into the palace, Evan noticed the quiet harmony of everything around them. The walls glowed like moonlight. The air felt warm, almost comforting. Elira said the palace was built to encourage peace of mind. Evan felt it working. He asked her if she ever visited other planets. She said she rarely left Valaris because her duties kept her close to her people. Sometimes she wished to see the stars the way humans did. Evan told her that humans loved adventure because Earth was filled with stories about reaching beyond limits. She said Valerians did not think that way. They focused on balance, not adventure. She found the human desire to keep moving forward very interesting. Evan felt the conversation flowing more easily. At first, he feared saying the wrong thing, but Elira made him feel calm. There was no judgment in her eyes. She listened the way someone listens to a friend. They reached a balcony overlooking the shining city. Buildings curved like branches of crystal trees. Floating gardens drifted on gentle winds. Far in the distance, the sky shimmered with slow-moving light rings. Evan leaned slightly over the balcony rail, amazed. Elira watched him quietly. She liked seeing a human look at her world with such open wonder. She admitted softly that she felt lonely sometimes, even though she was surrounded by people. Many respected her, but few truly spoke to her. Evan found it strange that someone so important could feel alone, but he understood her words. Loneliness was something even the greatest people could feel. Their quiet moment ended when a sudden tremor shook the balcony. The lights in the city flickered for a second, and a distant rumble echoed across the sky. Alira narrowed her eyes. She knew this was not normal. Valaris rarely experienced sudden disturbances. Evan asked what it was, but she did not answer immediately. She rested one hand lightly on the railing, as if sensing something through the structure. Her eyes grew serious. She said a strange energy fluctuation had appeared earlier in the day, but she thought it was harmless. Now she was not sure. Another tremor pulsed through the balcony, slightly stronger. Evan stepped back. Alira stood firm. She closed her eyes for a moment and focused. After a few breaths, she said that the disturbance was coming from deep beneath the palace. It felt unnaturally sharp, like a force pushing against the core of the city. Evan asked how he could help. She looked at him with surprise for a brief moment, then nodded slowly. She said human instincts were known to be quicker and more unpredictable than Valerian instincts. Sometimes unpredictability was useful. She asked him to stay close to her until they understood what was happening. Evan agreed without hesitation. They hurried back through the corridors. The gentle lights flickered again, and distant alarms began to echo through the hallways in soft tones. Alira explained that Valerian alarms were designed not to cause panic. Evan found that interesting, even in the middle of danger. The palace guards appeared, waiting for the princess's commands. She told them to secure the upper levels and guide visitors to safety. Then she turned to Evan and asked him to follow her into the lower chambers. He could feel tension rising around them, but he did not step back. As they moved deeper underground, the air grew heavier. The lights dimmed slowly. Evan felt nervous but stayed beside her. She walked with confidence, though even she seemed uneasy. She said the energy of Valaris was usually gentle, but now it felt disturbed, like something foreign was spreading through the foundations. They reached a sealed doorway covered in glowing patterns. Alira placed her hand on it, and the patterns shifted like waves responding to her touch. The door opened silently. Beyond it lay a wide chamber filled with swirling lights and moving patterns. Alira explained that this place was connected to the energy system of the palace. It was normally stable and peaceful. Today, it felt tense. Evan looked around the chamber, trying to understand what they were facing. The glowing lines on the walls flickered. Some sections dimmed unnaturally. A vibrating hum filled the air. Alira walked toward a central platform. She touched one of the glowing lines. It sparked faintly and made her step back. Evan asked if someone was attacking the palace. She said she did not know yet, but something was wrong deep within the system. Evan stepped closer beside her. He looked at the patterns like someone examining a puzzle. He noticed something irregular. One of the glowing lines was pulsing in a strange rhythm, as if the energy was being pulled from somewhere it should not be. He pointed it out. Alira blinked in surprise. That was something she had not noticed. She said human eyes sometimes caught details Valerians overlooked. She moved closer and examined it carefully. Her face grew serious. Before she could explain anything further, another tremor shook the chamber, this one stronger than before. The glowing lines dimmed halfway and a deep echo rolled through the ground. Alira stood firm. Evan steadied himself. She said they needed to act fast, but they had to understand what was causing this disturbance before anything worse happened. She asked Evan once again to stay close to her, because the situation might become dangerous. He nodded. Even in the middle of rising tension, he felt a quiet certainty. He was where he needed to be. He was standing beside a princess he admired, facing something unknown, and he was not afraid. As the chamber trembled again, their eyes met. She trusted him, a simple human explorer, in a moment where trust mattered, and Evan felt ready to face whatever waited below the surface of Valaris. The danger was growing, and neither of them fully understood it yet. but they would discover it together. The chamber beneath the palace felt heavier with every passing second. Evan could sense the tension in the air, like something unseen was pressing against the walls. Princess Aelira moved carefully toward the central energy lines again, her expression focused. She placed her hand over one of the glowing patterns. The light responded, but this time it flickered weakly. Evan stepped beside her and asked if the palace was losing power. Aelira said the energy core of Valaris was stable, but something was interfering with the flow. She explained that energy on their planet moved like water, smoothly and calmly. Now it felt disrupted and scattered. Evan asked if it could be a natural event, but she shook her head. Natural energy changes were slow and gentle. This was sharp, sudden, and unnatural. A small rumble rolled through the ground again. Evan steadied himself. Aelira's eyes followed the pulsing line that Evan had pointed out earlier. She moved closer and studied it again. Evan watched the strange rhythm and noticed it looked almost like a pattern, not random. He wondered aloud if someone was controlling it. Aelira listened carefully. She said that was a possibility, but only a very powerful external device could disturb the palace core. Valaris was a peaceful world. They had no enemies who would dare attack lightly. Evan felt uneasy. He was new to this world, but he could feel the seriousness of the situation. Something had entered the palace energy system that did not belong. Aelira asked him to follow her deeper into the chamber. They walked down a gentle ramp until they reached a lower level filled with quiet blue light. The air felt warmer here. The energy walls glowed with slow waves, but in the center of the floor, a strange flicker pulsed like a heartbeat out of rhythm. Aelira approached it cautiously. Evan followed behind her, watching every movement of the light. Aelira knelt and placed her hand near the flickering spot. Her expression changed quickly. She said the disturbance was not just inside the energy system. Something had been attached to the inner layer of the palace's foundation. Evan asked what kind of device could do that. Aelira told him it must be something brought from outside, something hidden, something designed to influence the palace energy. Evan looked around the chamber and tried to think the way a human explorer would. He had visited abandoned ruins, broken ships, and strange caves before. Sometimes he had found hidden technology buried under layers of dust. He asked Aelira if it was possible that someone had placed a device beneath the palace before the ceremony. She nodded slowly, her face showing worry for the first time. Evan stepped closer and examined the flickering spot. It reminded him of an indicator light on human machines when something was blocked or misaligned. He looked along the floor and saw a faint line he had not noticed before. He knelt and touched the metal. It felt smoother and warmer than the rest. Aelira tilted her head as she watched him. Evan pressed his hand flat and gently pushed. A soft sound echoed, and a hidden panel slid open. Aelira gasped softly. Inside the small opening was a compact metal device, glowing with bright red lines. It looked completely different from Valerian technology. Aelira said the design was too sharp, too mechanical, too aggressive to be from her world. Evan recognized parts of it from a training manual. He said it looked like a siphon unit, a machine that could pull energy from one place and store it somewhere else. Aelira said such a device would drain the palace slowly and cause the tremors they felt. She also said that if left alone, it could destabilize the entire energy network beneath Valaris. Evan asked how they could remove it safely. Aelira leaned in and studied the device. She said Valerian systems were sensitive. If they simply broke the device, it could cause a sudden disruption. Evan thought for a moment and said the siphon probably had a stabilizer core. If he could find the core and shut it off first, the device would become harmless. Aelira looked impressed. She said humans truly had a talent for solving problems with simple ideas. They both leaned closer. Evan reached inside the panel carefully. The device hummed softly. He found 3 cables connected to its inner frame. Elira said the blue one fed energy in, the white one monitored flow, and the black one likely powered the central core. Evan nodded. He told her that if he pulled the black cable gently and then pressed the blue one inward, it might temporarily freeze the device's process. Elira trusted his judgment. She placed her hand on the glowing wall, ready to stabilize the chamber if needed. Evan took a slow breath. He reached for the black cable and pulled. The device buzzed, but the flickering in the chamber slowed. He pressed the blue cable inward, and the red lines on the device dimmed gradually. Elira watched closely. After a few seconds, the device went completely dark. A wave of calm spread across the chamber. The glowing walls brightened. The tremors stopped. Elira lifted her hand and stood slowly. She looked at Evan with clear relief. She thanked him, saying he had acted with quick thinking and courage. Evan felt a mixture of embarrassment and pride. He was glad he could help her world, even in a small way. Elira took the device from the opening and studied it. She said she would take it to the council for investigation. But before she could finish her sentence, the chamber suddenly dimmed again. A loud echo rolled across the floor. Elira turned sharply. Evan stepped beside her. She said the device they found was just one part. There had to be more. They left the lower chamber quickly and returned to the main energy room. The glowing lines still flickered faintly. Elira sensed something further below, deeper than they had gone before. She told Evan that the palace core chamber was far beneath the surface. Whatever was causing the disturbance might be attacking the core directly. They hurried through a narrow tunnel illuminated by faint lights. The walls vibrated softly. Evan felt the temperature drop the deeper they went. Elira walked with determined steps. She was calm, but clearly focused on reaching the core in time. Evan followed closely, trusting her instinct. The tunnel opened into a massive chamber filled with bright blue energy waves rising from the floor. The core itself stood in the center, a tall column of glowing crystal surrounded by swirling rings of light. The sight was breathtaking. Evan had never seen anything so beautiful and powerful. But near the base of the core stood 3 dark shapes. Evan froze. Elira placed a protective arm in front of him. The figures moved like shadows, wearing suits that hid their forms. They worked quickly, attaching small devices to the foundation of the core. Elira whispered that they were siphon units. Evan counted 5 already attached. Elira stepped forward and called out to them. Her voice echoed across the chamber. The shadows turned sharply. One of them raised a device that sparked with bright red light. Elira told Evan to stay behind her. The shadows began to move. They spread out across the floor, approaching slowly. Evan felt his heartbeat rise. Elira stood tall and calm. She raised her hand, and a wave of soft blue light spread from her palm. It formed a shield between them and the shadows. The glowing energy formed a barrier like a curved wall. The shadow's device hit the barrier and scattered into sparks of light. Elira told Evan that the shield would not hold long. They needed to disable the siphons fast. Evan looked around, trying to find a path. He noticed that if he moved along the far left side, he could reach the weakest device unnoticed. Elira saw the determination in his eyes. She asked if he had a plan. Evan nodded. He explained that humans were skilled at moving unpredictably. If he drew the shadow's attention, she could disable the remaining devices. Elira hesitated for a moment, but then agreed. She lowered the shield slightly. Evan ran left, moving behind a low platform. The shadows noticed him and chased quickly. This gave Elira the opening she needed. She dashed toward the core, her movements fast and graceful. Evan reached the far left siphon and pulled the black cable just like before. The device sparked and shut down. Elira used her energy to disconnect 2 more devices. The shadows grew frustrated. They moved faster, trying to stop her. Evan saw one of them getting close to her. Without thinking, he ran toward them. He grabbed a loose metal bar from the floor and used it to block the shadow's path. The shadow stumbled, giving Alira time to disable a fourth device. But the fifth device was deeply embedded. Alira reached it, but the shadow closest to her struck her with a sharp wave of red energy. She fell to one knee. Evan shouted her name and rushed toward her. She lifted her hand and quickly signaled him to stay back, but he ignored it. He reached her side and helped her to her feet. Alira winced, but stood. The last device hummed dangerously. It glowed brighter than the others. Evan examined it quickly. He realized it was a different type, one that would overload if touched carelessly. Alira said they had seconds before it destabilized the core. Evan closed his eyes for a moment and tried to think. He remembered something from a human training session. When a device becomes unstable, sudden movement worsens the reaction, but steady pressure can sometimes stop the overload. He told Alira his idea. She trusted him again without question. They both placed their hands on the device. Alira channeled calm energy into it. Evan pressed steadily on the stabilizer plate. The red glow shook violently, but then slowly dimmed. The humming grew softer. After a long, tense moment, the device finally shut down completely. The shadows froze as the core brightened. Alira raised her hand again and released a wave of light across the chamber. The shadows were swept back and fell to the ground, unable to resist the energy. Guards entered the chamber moments later and secured the intruders. Alira breathed heavily. Evan supported her. They both looked at the core. Its glow was steady again. The chamber hummed softly with peace. Alira thanked Evan for his bravery. She said no one had ever worked with her so closely in a moment of danger. Evan said he only did what he felt was right. Alira smiled gently. She said she knew he would say that. She told him that when she first turned toward him in the royal hall, she sensed something honest in him. She felt that his words were not meant to impress her. They were simply true. Evan felt warmth spread through him. He told her that he only spoke what he felt. Alira said that was why she trusted him. Humans spoke with heart, not only with reason. She admired that. When the council heard what happened, they praised both of them. Alira told the council that Evan's quick thinking saved the core. Evan tried to say she did most of the work, but she refused to let him dismiss his contribution. Later, Alira walked with him to a balcony overlooking the quiet city. The sky glowed with soft rings of light again. The tremors had stopped. Valeris felt peaceful. Alira asked him if he would stay on Valeris as her partner in future missions. She said she valued his presence. Evan looked at the shining world around him and then at the princess beside him. He said he would stay. He wanted to see more of her world. He wanted to stand beside her again, no matter what challenges came. Alira nodded softly, pleased with his answer. Together, they looked out at the glowing sky, knowing their story on Valeris had only just begun.